As you already know that IR and AWA score is not included in your 800 marks score, which I have already told you. So let's discuss the type of questions in Math section, Verbal and IR section. Let's start with Maths. So in Math sections, you are going to have two types of questions. First type is data sufficiency questions and the second type is problem solving questions. In your Math section, you are going to have some 13 to 14 questions roughly for data sufficiency and 17 to 18 questions for problem solving. So let's discuss in depth data sufficiency. So in data sufficiency type of questions, there is no need to solve the questions. You can just simply answer the question by verifying whether the statements are sufficient or not. So this is the best part and an easy and beautiful thing in data sufficiency type of questions. So here you are not going to get the answer. Here you have just to verify whether the statement is sufficient or not for the particular question. So let's have a glance on the options because options are very important while you talk about data sufficiency type of questions. Like in option A, it says statement 1 alone is sufficient but statement 2 alone is not sufficient. Option B, statement 1 alone is not sufficient but statement 2 alone is sufficient. Option C, statement 1 and 2 together are sufficient but individually are not sufficient. Option D says statement 1 alone or statement 2 alone is sufficient. And option E says statement 1 and 2 together are not sufficient to answer the question. So these are the options given for data sufficiency type of question. Now in GMAT, answer means a unique answer. It is like if for one statement you are going to get two unique answers, then you cannot say it is an answer. But if you say it is an answer, that you must get only one answer. Now I'm showing the options in a detailed way. If you are choosing statement A, that statement A is sufficient and statement 2 is insufficient. Or if you choose option B, that statement 1 is not sufficient and statement 2 is sufficient. And like option C says, statement 1 is not sufficient and statement 2 is not sufficient. And if then it is sufficient, then your option will be C. And in option D, like statement 1 alone is sufficient or statement 2 alone is sufficient, then your answer will be D. And if your statement 1 alone is insufficient, your statement 2 alone is sufficient, and if you combine them and it's again insufficient, then you can go for option E. Now, whenever you solve a question, what should be your approach? First, you have to look at your statement 1. If statement 1 is sufficient, so you can see your option A and D. So your options can be either A or D. Similarly, statement 1 is insufficient, your answer choices will be B or C or E. Now, let us say if statement 1 is sufficient. Now, what you have to do? You have to check second statement alone. So usually most of the students make a mistake here. So whenever you are checking second statement, you have to check it alone. Never consider first statement with this. So once after getting A and D as your option choices, you have to check the statement 2 alone. If statement 2 alone is sufficient, then your option will be D. If statement 2 alone is insufficient, then your option will be A. So whenever statement 1 alone is insufficient, your option choices can be B, C or E. In this case, you have to check statement 2 alone. If statement 2 alone is sufficient, then you can say B is your answer. If statement 2 alone is insufficient, then option C can be your answer or even option E can be your answer. So when you come to this cycle, you have to combine statement 1 and 2 together until you have to check it. And then if statement 1 and 2 are sufficient together, then you can say option C is your answer. If statement 1 and 2 are not sufficient together, then you can say option E is your answer. Sometimes if you find that statement 1 is a little bit tough to start with, so if there is a choice, you can start with your second statement, because even if you can understand one statement properly, you can happily eliminate 2 to 3 options out of your 5 options. And then you can go for a guess. Suppose when we look at the second thing. Suppose if you're not familiar with the first statement, then check the second statement. If second statement alone is sufficient, then your answer choices may be B or D. Then you can check statement 1. If 1 alone is sufficient, then you can say D is your answer. But if statement 1 is insufficient, then you can say B is your answer. And similarly, the other part of the cycle, if statement 2 is insufficient, your answers may be A or C or E. Then you can check the statement 1 alone. If statement 1 alone is sufficient, then A is your answer. If statement 1 alone is insufficient, then C or E may be your answer. So after this combined statement of 1 and 2, if both of them together are sufficient, then C is your answer. And if both of them together are insufficient, then E is your answer. So the reason why I'm showing you the process, even if you understand one statement, like you only know how to verify the second statement and you are unfamiliar with the statement 1, even in this case, if statement 2 alone is sufficient, then you can straight away go for a guesswork amongst the option B and D. So straight away eliminate 3 choices, A, C and E directly from the option list. So further we are going to learn both the procedures.